regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting Truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Most basic diseases are caused by yeast in the gut and metals in the liver, and we all have a bit of both. The garlic in Extendivite has a yeast-killing effect in the gut while also helping the sulfur enzyme in the liver get rid of the metals. Extendivite just may improve your overall health. Products like Extendivite are the only way we are going to get our society healthy. And if you're waiting for the government and pharmaceutical care to solve your health problems, you're going to have a long, disappointing wait, I think. Extendivite is a complete formula for extended life in the new millennium. 80 can be the new 60. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Friday, November 16th, 2018. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. We've got a lot to talk about today. It's been another very busy news day here. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments and questions. And, of course, a reminder that in hour number 3 of our show today, the lovely Lady Claire will be joining us with her unique perspective on the world. So let's get right on into it. Obviously, down in Florida, things are still chaotic, to say the least here. In the machine recount, Republican Rick Scott actually gained votes over Democrat Bill Nelson. Nelson is still refusing to concede, and now, of course, they're into a hand recount. Okay, if the machine recount won't give the Democrats what they want, it'll be a hand count. Okay, and if that doesn't work, then they'll get a kitten count and maybe a hamster count. And they're just going to keep on going until they get the result that they want. Now, Ron DeSantis won the Florida recount, but the George Soros-funded Democrat Andrew Gillum is still refusing to concede there. And believe it or not, after all that Sturm und Drang about we've got to have a recount, we've got to get, and the rest of it, Gillum effectively gained one whole vote out of all of that, one additional net vote. And that brought them to within basically a 0.41% margin between Gillum and DeSantis. And that's well outside the 0.25% needed for yet another recount, but Gillum is still refusing to concede. So it really is getting ridiculous here. Now, believe it or not, there was a big stink where some of the Florida counties missed the recount deadline, one of them by only 2 minutes. And so the Election Commission went back to the original numbers. And election officials are being accused of intentionally missing the recount deadline to aid the Democrats, because in some of these recounts, the Democrats actually lost ground, like with Rick Scott and Bill Nelson. So they didn't want to go with those numbers. They wanted to go with the first numbers, which were closer, while they try and push for this recount by hand, which is now underway here. Now, this is a little bit alarming here. This story came on out of, it was linked to Investment Watch blog, and there was a video by this group, voting transparency group, Audit USA, and John Brakey, the director of Audit USA, actually got a video recording looking at these ES&S voting machines used in Broward County and discovered they had cellular modems on them. Now, ES&S is out there saying, well, this is just so the results can be sent in over the cellular system. Well, come on. Once you put these voting machines online, they're wide open to any hacking, tampering. I mean, that's exactly the kind of thing that we were trying to get away from. Once you've got a modem on that election machine, they could be reprogrammed on the fly. They could pass the pre-election audit perfectly, and then in the few minutes before the polls open, new software could be downloaded onto them. They could steal the election for the Democrats, and then when the polls close, the original software could be loaded back on, so it could pass the post-election audit. This is ridiculous. Where was the Department of Homeland Security on all this? I thought this is what they were supposed to be doing. At the very least, I mean, there's so many places in this election process that need to be worked on. The one area where Department of Homeland Security said they were going to do was make sure these machines could not be hacked from the outside. And here they have cellular modems on them. All right, we're going to take a phone call here from Layla in Ontario. Aloha, Layla. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
It's the judge appointed by Trump,
Yeah.
Timothy Kelly, I think his name is, who ordered that Jim Acosta be given back his press credentials.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the most outrageous thing I've ever heard, because that judge, first of all he had to do was just look at the press conference. All the other reporters had their hands up waiting to ask a question. And what Jim Acosta was doing was no less than bullying the president of the United States, or attempting to bully him. But Trump stood up to him and tried to keep order in the press conference.
Yes.
When I was a reporter, I've attended tons of press conferences, and never was any one person that disrespectful without losing the friendship or the respect of other reporters. You would never do that, because you deprive the others of their right to ask questions, unless you deny them the right of free speech. And an addendum to that question, that comment is a question. And that is, does the First Amendment give press reporters greater rights to freedom of expression? Is there a hierarchy within the institution of news reporting? And do they, as a whole, have greater rights than individual citizens to freedom of expression? I don't see anything. I haven't read the text thoroughly, but I don't see where anyone has a greater right to freedom. I couldn't just walk in there and say, I want to ask the president a question.
Well, the answer to your
the
question there
president
is
has the right
no.
to.
The First Amendment is equal opportunity. Everybody has an equal right to speak. But, ignoring for a moment CNN's throwing a party and everybody saying, ha-ha, it's a victory for the media over the president, and we put the president in his place. You need to actually take a closer look at what the judge said, because he didn't rule that Acosta was needed to get his press pass back on the First Amendment, but on the Fifth Amendment right to due process. Okay? And what the judge actually said is the White House did not follow its own policy, its own written policy in revoking press credentials. And so Acosta could get his press card back, but at that point, the White House still has the legal right to go through its own formal policy and yank the press card again. Now, I think they're probably not going to do that, because the optics on it would be bad. But that's what the judge actually said, was that Acosta had been denied due process in the manner in which his press credentials were revoked. But I think everybody pretty much understands Acosta was behaving badly. He wasn't acting like a journalist. He wasn't asking questions. He was out there shouting statements and grandstanding. And that's not what the press room is supposed to be for. I think he behaved very badly. I think CNN made a stink about it in a pathetic attempt to boost their ratings. And right now over at CNN, this is like their top story. CNN's top story is CNN, and ha-ha, we beat the president. We gave him what for. We showed him what was going to go on.
And I guess maybe that's why I did read that portion where the judge based it on due process. But how much due process is needed when the action of violating the rights of other reporters was so blatant. And due process was done because we heard the president repeatedly tell him to stop and desist, but he persisted. So that essentially constitutes a form of due process. He gave him plenty of warning. Now, maybe there wasn't, if I had been the judge, of course I'm not, but ideally, for the sake of respecting the rights of everyone's right to free speech, what he should have done, and I wish he had done, I should say, I'm not going to dictate what a judge should do, but I wish he had simply said, I'm going to withhold judgment until the White House decides how to handle this. I would recommend that they follow.
Leila, there was no reason for Trump to do that because other presidents have kicked reporters out of the press room. In fact, there's a video link to the front page of whatreallyhappened.com where Obama is just saying, show that guy the door. It's only in the case of Trump where they made a big stink about it.
And this is what bothers me. I mean, there was a caller last week saying that, and I agree with him, we should not be constantly banging on Trump. He's got enough pressures. But the problem is that Trump is only one man. He can't carry the whole planet or the whole country on his shoulders alone. Everyone he has appointed has either stabbed him in the back or failed him, starting with Jeff Sessions and a number of other judges. And so a couple of weeks ago, I said something about the fact that if you don't have a military, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. Well, if you don't have a judiciary, you have nothing. If you don't have a credible judiciary that recognizes things within the context of the times and within the context within which the purported violation occurred, I mean, how is anyone going to have faith in the country? Certainly, anyway, I think the arguments are quite self-evident, and they should have been self-evident to the judge, and he should have found a more diplomatic and balanced way to rule. I wish he had anyway. I guess that's all I have to say for now. Thanks for letting me blow off my steam.
All right. Well, steam is well and truly blown, and thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go here. And we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network here. All righty, getting on back to the election, and this election definitely was a circus. Out in Arizona, they have launched a formal investigation into voter fraud during the midterms, and we know there are already investigations underway in Florida. So this could be the watershed moment where investigators are going to say, look, we're not going to be intimidated anymore by party politics. We need to get control of this process over here. Let's see. Apparently, the Florida Democratic Party allegedly instructed workers and volunteers to reach out to voters who submitted mail-in ballots with signature issues and requested they resolve the discrepancies after the Florida deadline. Now, the instructions came after Election Day had passed, making the effort a violation of Florida's election rules. And that shows intent to commit election fraud. Apparently, the Democrats have been accused of robocalling non-citizen residents to vote 30 minutes before the polls closed in the state of Florida. The robocalls were going on out there and just saying, the polls are about to close, go over here and vote Democratic. And of course, you do have to recall, non-citizens are not allowed to vote here. But the Democrats, that's why they want open borders. That's why they love the illegal immigrants and the refugees. They rely on them to cling to power here. Let's see. Apparently, according to the Gateway Pundit, Democrat leaders in Florida directed staffers and volunteers to share altered election forms to fix improper absentee ballots after the deadline. The plan was to have Florida voters fix and submit as many absentee votes as possible in hopes of including them in the vote totals. And an activist federal judge ruled that these illegal, fraudulent votes had to be counted in Florida's election, effectively changing the rules of the election after the fact to help the Democrats win. Remember back in 2016, we saw that when Hillary lost the election. They were saying, "Well, we should just bypass, the electoral college here. Let's just say that who the popular vote wins, and that's Hillary." They wanted to change the rules right there, and that's a big problem with the Democratic Party. It's a big problem with politics in general, but especially with the Democratic Party. And one of the reasons why mainstream America is rejecting them. They don't understand that for a nation to function, there do have to be rules, and you have to follow the rules. If you go totally lawless, if you go totally outlaw, you stop being a country and you start being a wilderness. So, all right, now, over in Fulton County, in Georgia, they had a vast number of provisional ballots submitted in this Democratic stronghold were rejected for being duplicates. And the Stacey Abrams campaign is pushing on Fulton County, running an entire campaign-style operation with phone banking, text, and email blasts to reach out to people who allegedly cast provisional ballots on Election Day. But again, everything that's coming on in that they're trying to basically force on through, duplicate ballots, rejected ballots, and non-citizens trying to vote. I've never seen election fraud this obvious. Of course, maybe it's this obvious because we're in the age of the independent media, and we're going to tell you what you need to know, whereas corporate media would not. Back when Vote Scam was being written during the Clinton years, not a word on the media about election fraud. And part of the reason is they're part of the system. At the very top of all these elections, there is what's called the Voters News Service. There actually is no government agency or civilian organization that oversees our elections. They're overseen by this private company called Voters News Service. Now, every once in a while, they change their name because they're trying to stay out of the spotlight. But all of these voting districts that are sending in their vote totals, they send them to Voters News Service, who is answerable to nobody. And they are owned by the major TV news networks and two newspapers, the New York Times and the Washington Post. And all the numbers go in there, and then they basically send out the forecasts and predictions to the TV networks to announce who won the elections. And there's no verification at all. No verification whatsoever. And they have been caught altering numbers before. The entire system is messed up. Apparently, there are 53,000 dead people on Florida's voter rolls, and apparently the Florida election supervisors were resisting a push by state authorities to remove not just the dead voters, but the non-citizen voters from the voting rolls. We need those dead voters. We need those illegal immigrants. What's wrong with you people? You don't understand. We can't win an election just among the American citizens. You're not being fair. You're making us play by your rules. And let's see. Yeah, we already talked about this. U.S. District Judge Mark Walker ruled on the 15th some voters were denied the opportunity to validate or cure their rejected votes, and so they will be allowed to continue to attest their votes' validity by 5 p.m. on November 17th, which is tomorrow night. It is a mess. It is a joke. And, Walker was absolutely right. The whole world is laughing at us. The whole world is laughing at us and our election system. Okay. All right. So, now, one of the GOP candidates who felt the wrath of the Democrats, has gone public with this. He was going to make a big stink about this. And you need to start, first of all, that a judge last week found Broward County in violation of the Constitution and ordered Broward County Election Supervisor Brenda Snipes to allow ballot inspections immediately during an emergency hearing on Friday. But Snipes did not turn over the ballots. She released the numbers on Saturday. Said, just trust us, everything's fine. Now, Republican Matt Caldwell won his election for the state agricultural commissioner on Tuesday night. When he went to bed, we're talking election night Tuesday. When he went to bed on Tuesday, he had won his race by 40,000 votes. But then 3 days later, all of a sudden, Matt is down by 3,000 votes. The problem is there were now more votes being cast than there were voters in Broward County. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Attention RBN listeners. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, founder of Front Sight Firearms Training, and Fate have come together to allow RBN to run another fundraiser till the end of the year. We didn't really expect this opportunity, but thankfully it's here and running as you hear this. We've set a goal of 500 donations by the end of the year, which averages around 6 per day, 7 days a week. When you realize all the folks listening to RBN all hours of the day and night, we think our goal is realistic and extremely critical to keep RBN on the air. If everybody listening will seriously assess their ability with firearms and then take advantage of this opportunity, we feel our goal is very conservative. Please take the time to look over Front Sight's website to get an idea of an amazing facility and the world-class training that's going on there. If this interests you, you likely will have like-minded friends that would like to know. Tell them. If for some reason some listeners are not personally interested, consider sons and daughters, close friends, nieces or nephews, top valued employees, inform club members, share the opportunity with police and fire departments. It's not too early to plan Christmas presents for special people. This fundraiser has come at an extremely critical time for RBN because the dire need for equipment upgrades. We're running on the spare tire currently with no money to fix a flat, and the fuel gauge is bouncing on E. This is one of the most valuable ways you can help RBN financially because you get Commander lifetime membership value that is 50 times your donation and can be passed on forever. How many times during life do you get to leave a legacy? See more details and contact info on our webpage, republicbroadcasting.org, and thank you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And getting on back to the news here, we're still talking about the midterm election debacle here. And Tucker Carlson tweeted on out a perfect observation. If the last few days have taught us anything, it's that our entire election process is completely broken. Every state needs audited and corrected. Any politician not on board with this is violating their oath. Wake up, America, we're being played. We went through this debacle 18 years ago with Florida. We were promised that we would have an honest, fair, transparent, verifiable election system by now. Clearly, that has not happened. And without honest, fair, accurate elections, we don't have a republic. We have a banana republic. We're seeing this election fraud gets done over and over and over again with impunity. That's the very definition of a broken system. Tucker Carlson is absolutely right here. Okay, now, as you know, Nancy Pelosi is now having to deal with competition for the speakership. And apparently, speakership candidate Marcia Fudge has fired off on Nancy Pelosi in a brutal critique. And so the cat fight is definitely on. Now, as of the last word, Marcia is saying she will not have a final decision if she's going to run for the speakership until after Thanksgiving, meaning basically a week from today. Meanwhile, Giuliani is talking about the Robert Mueller questions for Donald Trump, saying they're unnecessary and possible traps. Now, apparently Trump has answered the questions in writing and sent them over there, and Acting Attorney General Whitaker is saying that as far as he's concerned, the Robert Mueller investigation can continue. And this is pure politics. It's got nothing to do with procedure and who's right and who's wrong. But I think the longer the Robert Mueller investigation is allowed to go on, the worse it's going to look. It's very obviously a witch hunt and a fishing expedition. And I know for a lot of people, we want to see the swamp cleaned up. And right now, it does look like Trump is just treading water, staying afloat, and thinks that's the best that can be done here. Now, in other developments, Chuck Grassley is now moving over to chair the Finance Committee. He is no longer going to be chairman of the Judiciary Committee. That seat is being taken over by Senator Lindsey Graham. And I am concerned that that means that the Senate Judiciary Committee is going to be less enthusiastic about pursuing certain investigations, because even though Lindsey Graham is a Republican, he seems to be more involved in that clique, with the power players than Grassley was here. Okay, we already talked about Jim Acosta's White House press pass. Again, CNN is out there just celebrating and saying, it's a victory, it's a symbol of press freedom, it's going to keep the U.S. from becoming China. And again, CNN is making CNN their top story. But the judge basically said the issue was due process to revoke the press passes of bona fide reporters. And just says it has to be in writing. They can't just come on up and say, turn over your card here. So we'll see where this is going to go. But I think if Trump decides that he wants to appeal this decision, a higher court is going to simply say, just go ahead and revoke it again. But do it in writing and follow your own published procedure. In any event, Acosta and CNN came off looking bad on this. CNN has like 50 people with credentials. And they put in Jim Acosta, who wasn't acting like a reporter. He wasn't asking questions. He wasn't listening respectfully. He wasn't giving other reporters their turn. He was grandstanding. And he was shouting statements at the president. And as I said before, we have a video that is linked to the front page of whatreallyhappened.com, where Obama just has a reporter ejected for being abusive. And, you know, Obama makes the point, hey, you're in my house. You know, a little decorum here, please. I remember on Obama's very first press conference as president, Helen Thomas asked him about what nations in the Middle East had nuclear weapons right there and then. Next day, she was gone. Nobody made a stink about that. This is just CNN looking to make noise for its own benefit, for its own ratings' sake. All right, we're going to take another break here for commercials, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com. Educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington, too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? Always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. And I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the seven seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And apparently down in Georgia, Stacey Abrams is lawyering up to try and contest the Georgia governor's election. Couldn't get it with the election, couldn't get it with the recount. Now she's got 3 dozen lawyers that are going to go on in and say, by golly, you just give it to me. So what a circus this has turned into. Back when John F. Kennedy won the election over Richard Nixon, and yes, Kennedy cheated, and Nixon knew he cheated. Everybody agreed for the good of the nation, it had to be kept quiet. They don't do that anymore. They don't care if we see that the election system is this broken here. Anyway, getting on back to CNN and Jim Acosta. CNN is really pounding on this dead horse to try and boost their ratings and screaming about how, the ability of the president to revoke a press, it's a grave threat to freedom of the press. Meanwhile, what they're not reporting on is that the Trump Justice Department, by accident, through a ridiculously botched cutting and pasting error, has disclosed that there is a sealed indictment against Julian Assange. And while the exact charge is not noted, the Wall Street Journal is saying they suspect it may involve the Espionage Act, which criminalizes the disclosure of national defense-related information. Now, obviously, that is a much greater threat to press freedom. If they're going to start applying the Espionage Act to journalists. Now, I'm sure that the corporate media is going to try and make the case that Julian Assange is not a bona fide journalist, but the courts have already ruled that there's no such thing as a privileged journalist as opposed to somebody who is working in the public interest, which is most of the independent media here. There have been efforts to try and say that only people working for corporate media are guaranteed legal protections, but those have all failed. Those have all failed. There's your real threat to press freedom right now, what they're getting ready to do to Julian Assange. So, anyway, let's get into the conflict zones here. A lot of them out there. There are a lot of them out there. Okay, the U.S. is now claiming that Bashar al-Assad created ISIS to hurl the Middle East into chaos. That's their new spin. We didn't make ISIS. We have no idea how they got all our money and our guns and our chemical weapons. This was all Bashar al-Assad, where 6-7 years ago, everything was fine, everything was calm, business was good, they were selling oil, and there was peace across the land. And that dastardly Assad just said, I'm bored, I'm going to create ISIS, and we're going to plunge the region into chaos and poverty and terror and death, because, heck, that sounds like a lot of fun to do. And this is all coming from U.S. Ambassador to Syria, James Jeffrey, who I think is either off his medications or he's taking way too many of them, because, again, look for what should be there and isn't. Because why would Bashar al-Assad want to throw the region into chaos when everything was working just fine? Makes him look good as the leader of Syria if everything's going along fine. It was the United States that plunged the Middle East into chaos. Still doing it. Still planning on doing it more. Still lusting after Iran. James Jeffrey's projecting. That's getting to be a really bad habit, where countries who are doing bad things are saying, no, it's not us, them. They're the bad ones. Apparently, at least 23 civilians have been killed in fresh airstrikes by U.S.-led coalition warplanes in Deir al-Zawr countryside in eastern Syria, along with several homes. Sounds like they're hitting residential areas again, which is a tacky no-no under the international rules of law here. Russia is reporting that the U.S.-led coalition has resumed airstrikes east of the Euphrates River in Syria, and they are using white phosphorus munitions. This is coming from Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova. And she says the Americans have resumed intensive airstrikes against terrorist-controlled settlements along the eastern bank of Euphrates, including, according to local residents, the use of white phosphorus munitions. Okay? Now, this next story is rather interesting. And again, this may actually be the real reason Israel's defense minister Avigdor Lieberman stepped down. Supposedly, he stepped down over the ceasefire with Gaza, but it may be because of the fact things are not going well for Israel in Syria. So basically, Russia has made it clear that the previous status quo of Israel's strikes into Syria is now gone. And Moscow has made it very clear that any renewed Israeli attacks in Syria will be responded to. And Israel's in a rough place because I'm sure they're getting phone calls from the U.S. military-industrial complex saying, you know, don't you dare risk losing one of those F-35s. If one of those gets shot down, boom, the whole thing is gone. People are not going to buy that anymore. All right, let's take a phone call here from Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Julian Assange, Mike, and how that relates to things like what's going on with with ISIS, Syria. Assange is, Assange is bringing things like this up, and now they're saying they're trying to bring the Espionage Act again. I say everybody. Let me give out the White House number, by the way, is 202-456-1111. Also, you can tweet Trump on his Twitter there. Tell him, free Julian Assange, free him now, or you will not have a chance in 2020. Period. Please
well, I'm afraid Trump has already made his position on Assange very clear, and it's not a very benevolent one.
Well, he better change it quick, okay? Because I'm not going to vote for him. I'll tell you the truth. I'd hate to think I'd vote for any Democrat, but other than Hillary, I'd probably vote for a Democrat. That's how disgusted I am if Assange goes to jail or they don't let him out of that prison he's in right now.
Oh, right? I agree.
This is not what we voted. This is not what we voted for. Millions of people are disgusted with this stuff. Okay, millions of people are disgusted with our stance in Syria. Nobody in his right mind, except some neocon, and they probably don't even believe it themselves, they're just spreading the lie, that Syria started ISIS. Everybody I can think of knows, except you won't see it, of course, on the mainstream media, that ISIS was started by USIS. Like John B. Wells says, ISIS is USIS. So is Al-Qaeda. All right?
Yep.
It's true. Unfortunately, it's true. If somebody had told me this years ago, I'd have thought, no, this could never happen. But it is. The government of this country, not the whole government, but certain elements of it, is pure, stark, satanic type evil. Whether you believe in the devil or not, I think they do, okay? It's satanic type evil. And they will do just about anything. This is why I believe they did 9/11. This is why I believe they did Sandy hoax. They set up the hoax. This is why I believe it was FBI, probably contractors, that shot up that school in the Cowards County there.
Yep.
And that Sheriff Israel was compromised to the point that he told his people to stand down. Okay, this is why I believe Lombardo there in Vegas was a joke. I think the FBI did that shooting also. Okay, this is one evil government, at least part of it. It is destroying this country, Mike. We cannot let this happen. Julian Assange is a hero. By the way, I just changed my Facebook profile to put his picture up there. And some other people have done it too. So I'm telling you, this is absolutely disgusting. He should be freeing Ed Snowden also. If it wasn't for Assange, Trump would have probably lost that election. It was Assange that exposed what happened. And most likely, he got the information from Seth Rich. Meanwhile, that murder investigation has been buried by the crooked, criminal D.C. police, very similar to Cowards County there. They have squashed it. Of course, the Federal Bureau of Idiots haven't pursued it either. Okay, this man was murdered by the DNC. Well, I mean, they probably hired who knows who they hired to do it. But the DNC was behind it. The deep state also. The same thing with the Kawans there. The Kawans, that was the reason why that stuff that was buried, is because probably there's enough information, if they dug deep enough into the Kawans, that it would bring, like you said before, would bring down the whole U.S. government.
Yep.
I think would actually be good, because we then get some kind of an improvement as long as we kept our Constitution. All right?
Yep.
This is absolutely disgraceful. They cannot get away with this. Trump better get it through his thick head. We're not going to tolerate this. Okay? He is in bed with the same neocons that are trying to bring him down. You just mentioned Lindsey Graham. I didn't trust Graham when he started this, thing about with the judge there.
Yep.
I didn't trust him at all. I trust him as far as I can throw him. He's a neocon and a rat, a dirty, filthy, stinking rat, very similar to his mentor there, John McCain. The man is no good. He already has evidently tried to intimidate Whitaker into pursuing this stupid Russian investigation, when Whitaker should really be pursuing scumbags like Graham, who was part of that deep state, and what was really behind this so-called Russian collusion, which was not a collusion. If there's any collusion, it's Ukraine and Great Britain. Those are the collusions in that election. All right?
Well, you want to talk about collusion again. What about the Uranium One deal? I would like to see Whitaker go after that, the email investigation. But right now, the only organization that is actually investigating what needs to be investigated is, of course, Judicial Watch. And I can imagine that, they're trying to work within the system, but the system is definitely fighting back. And I'm very disappointed in Donald Trump, because he has turned his back on many of the people and institutions that helped him into that Oval Office. Julian Assange and WikiLeaks is one. The independent media in general is another.
Put a guy like David Clark, Sheriff Clark, there. In either the FBI directorship or the head of DHS, we wouldn't be having a lot of these messes. This guy like Clark was in it, because the guy is a true constitutional patriot, a real peace officer. Okay, not just some kind of law enforcement officer, or he is a true peace officer. He really served. He really loves this country. He loves the people of this country, and he's all for the Second Amendment. And he's, like I said, that's the kind of guy you should have in there. He would have cleaned it up. But no, he puts one shyster lawyer after another in charge of the FBI. First he gets rid of Comey, now he puts another shyster in, and who else? And then he puts the same thing with the Justice Department. He puts a clown like Sessions in when he should have put a fire breather in there. Now he's got to seemingly have a fire breather in there, but he's not giving him full support. Okay, this guy's got to go after it. I don't care if they fire up Mueller or not right now. They need to make Mueller understand that he is now the target of the investigation, not the investigator, because the man is crooked as the day is long. Those Rosenstein, who Trump again should have gotten rid of before the election, he didn't. He gave him another chance. The man is so simple-minded. He seems to think that he's running a business still. You're not building a condo, Donald. You're not building some kind of a resort. You're running the U.S. government, and you've got rats who will eat you alive if you don't watch it. And that's exactly what's happening.
At this point, it's obvious that Trump has been compromised or controlled, or he was just as phony as any other politician that we've seen here. And I'm very disappointed in him. And I know right now he's not going to stand a chance in 2020 if he goes on betraying those who worked so hard to get him elected in 2016. It's just not going to happen.
By the way, starting with Flynn. Flynn also knew about ISIS as ISIS. He was very aware of that. He made it clear about that. He made it clear, too, that Russia was not our enemy. And
yes.
Assad not our enemy. Okay? That's who we, but as soon as things got a little rough, he threw him under the bus. He said, well, he lied to Pence. He shouldn't even have Pence as vice president. Actually, during the election, I was hoping that he would make Flynn his vice presidential, because I was reading a little bit about Flynn, and that's the kind of guy he would have needed. as his vice president. But no, he has to take another neocon like Pence. Okay.
Yep.
So this is a problem, and I don't know where this country's going. I tell you, I don't want to think civil war. I really don't. But again, it's probably better to have a civil war than a nuclear war.
I think we're heading for a collapse. We're heading for a collapse. I mean, every day I'm seeing more and more American people who are just saying this country doesn't work anymore for us. You know, it's working great for the money junkies, but this government at all levels does not work for the people any longer. And I think people are just ready to turn away. Anyway, Mark, I'm going to let you go here, and we're going to switch over to Dustin in New Jersey. And Dustin, I'm probably going to have to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Yeah, remember, we all voted for Trump, and remember, he was the lesser of two evils, but remember what he said about Edward Snowden? That was like a pause. You know, remember he said didn't he say he should be hung or something like that? Remember on Fox News?
That's
when he
right.
was on
Fox? Trump came down, but again, Edward Snowden didn't help his campaign.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I look at Edward Snowden. I mean, I'm still on the fence about Edward Snowden if he was like a plant. You know what I mean? Because this whole Russian thing has been going on a long time. This whole buildup. You know, as I, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a buildup with Snowden. You got Ukraine, you got Syria, you got Russia collusion with the phony, dossier, and it's just like this. You know, it's just a playbook. You know, added on, piled on, and it's just, and then now it's China. You know, China and Russia, because those are the.
Okay. All right. There's the music. Dustin, just stay on the line. Going to put you on hold. We're going to take a break for some commercials. We're going to come back to Dustin. We have yet another caller waiting on the line. Then we're going to get back to more news. We'll be right back after these few words.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page, and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health. By Amazon customers. It works for me. Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, This one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Dustin in New Jersey. And Dustin, we're talking about the Russian hysteria. And somebody actually emailed me this YouTube video that I just now put up at whatreallyhappened.com about how this was all getting cranked up. And they were selling us the idea that we had to hate the Russians. And if you look back throughout history, it's always a case of leaders having to sell that some other country is the enemy, that they're bad, that they're subhuman, that they're gooks or slants or krauts or hajis or whatever, in order to sell their population. Oh, we got to go to war. Well, actually, I'm going to stay here at home. You're going to go to war. You and your kids are going to go to war. You're going to go into this other country. You're going to kill them all, and you're going to, bring back all their treasure and give it to me. And those of you who die will go to heaven, and it's all going to work out really well. And why the human race keeps falling for it over and over again is somewhat of a mystery to me.
Yeah, if you look, it's like there's some tidbits of World War I and World War II up in there. Those evil Russians, those evil Chinese stealing our jobs, those evil Chinese and Russians, it's like so reminiscent of the same propaganda that's been used throughout the centuries, how sad, human nature don't change, this is the problem. Did you see that report that came out that said that basically we don't think we can win a war with the Russians or the Chinese?
Yeah, I was going to get to that. I was going to get to that. And I don't know what they paid for that report. They could have saved themselves a lot of money, because I've been saying exactly the same thing for months. After 17 years of war, our stockpiles are drawn down, our weapons are worn out, our armed forces are exhausted. The new weapons coming out of the military-industrial complex are expensive junk. No, we're not able to win a war against either Russia or China, let alone both of them together. And that means that if we do get into a war with Russia and China, sooner or later, it will go nuclear.
Yeah, because having both countries, if you're at war with both, you'd have to split a lot of ships and manpower, and we just don't have that ability to have that supply line to split into two. There's no way to take both on. It'd be like suicidal mission. Hey, Mike, and by the way, did you hear the Russians just tested a new torpedo? I think it might be the Cheval 2, which is like the new, remember the supercavitation in the 70s they made?
Yeah.
Well, this one's probably the supercavitating 2. But remember the flaw in that back in the 70s was just when it had to recalculate where it would go, it had to slow down. But 2018 is a different time. They can, can do it on the fly now. So, and I think it was doing 300 miles an hour or 250 miles an hour under the water.
It's very fast. It's very fast. Well, the way they do that is they literally are bleeding some kind of gas out of the very front of the torpedo. So it's actually flying inside this self-generated bubble. So it doesn't have the drag of the ocean around it. Doesn't have to worry about boundary layer drag. Anyway, listen, Dustin, we're going to have to let you go and take a break for station identification. We've got a couple more callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. And we're going to go right back to the phones to Fran in Washington State. Aloha, Fran. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Greetings to you and Claire.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to call you the day after the midterms, but you were way too busy. So I've waited till now. My observation, in Washington State here, we have paper ballots that are mailed to us with a voter's pamphlet, and there are drop-off locations in every neighborhood, and we don't have voter fraud. And I don't understand why the rest of the country can't do that.
Well, can I very gently suggest that maybe the system you describe to me is wide open. You may have voter fraud that you're simply unaware of because once you have the ballots going back and forth in the mail, they're subject to being tampered with. But the reality is, to answer the larger question, though, is that the politicians don't want there to be a verifiable, accurate election system in this country because having a crooked, rigged system frees them from the voters, and they can spend all their time, bowing to the ultra rich, and they don't have to worry about what those pesky voters are thinking.
Hey, Michael.
Yes.
The only time when the ballots come through the mail, they are blank. I mean, they're not. They have all the bubbles to fill out, but it's you that fills them out, and then you hand carry it to a drop-off location that's in your neighborhood.
Yes.
So once it's filled out, it goes from your hand into that box. And so it doesn't go through the mail when it's filled out.
Yeah, but what happens if somebody is able to get into that box and take out the ballots that you and your neighbors have filled out and put in a bunch of other ballots that have been filled out in a slightly different direction? That's where
at the box that I go to when there's an election going on, there are uniformed election workers that take your ballot and put them in the box for you. It's a drive-up situation at a public library. So, yeah, I suppose we could have fraud about who counts them. Everybody can do that. But the machines are not involved between you and your ballot and the collection point.
No, but I mean, how are the ballots actually counted? Is there a central tabulation center?
Oh, sure.
Well, again, we're finding out the machines themselves are suspect. We need a whole top-down overhaul of our election system. And again, as a starting point, I'm not saying this is the definitive final solution, but as a starting point, over on my page, just underneath my ridiculously outdated picture, how to have honest elections, and that's a good starting point. Anyway, Fran, I remember the Washington state elections because Claire and I lived there very, very briefly. But thank you for the phone call, and we're going to take one more call from Joe.
Just wait, one more thing. I saw the new tax bracket, and if you make $9,000 a year, you're taxed 10%. What the heck?
That is a lot.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Now we're going to switch over to Joe in Alaska. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your minds?
Aloha, Mike. The grand solar minimum. Did you see that picture that's been going on, I don't know, the last couple of days? Not a single sunspot.
Oh, that's been the case all year. That's been the case all year.
Well, my point is this grand solar minimum has been building over the last couple cycles.
Yes.
And what I wanted to point out is this relationship between CO2 in the ocean and sea level rise has more to do with sequestration. And the sea level rise, of course, has more to do with thermal expansion than it does melting glaciers.
Okay, well, we need to back up a little bit, okay, because with the grand solar minimum, the planet is cooling. Even NASA is now admitting that. And it's been determined by taking measurements at various islands around the world that the oceans are not, in fact, rising, and that the global warming enthusiasts were sort of fudging their reports by finding coastal areas that are in the process of where the land is sinking. It's not the water that's rising, it's the ground that's subsiding, which can happen. If you know what the underlying geology is, you can basically pick that on up. But there's absolutely no question that those who are out there saying, CO2 is going to warm the planet, we're absolutely wrong. And even NASA is now admitting that CO2 acts as an atmospheric coolant. And that it is, in fact, the solar energy that is controlling climate here on Earth and all the other effects. And we're looking now at this storm that just hit the northeast of the United States. It was so bad it caught everybody off guard. People were spending the night in airports and schools. There was 12-hour gridlock traffic. Drivers literally fell asleep in their cars, had to be woken up by officers. The Bayonne Bridge has been shut down.
Sure.
Cars can't make it up the incline in the snow. So,
hey, check out this headline. Alaska's oldest newspaper, the Nome Nugget, that's where I'm at.
Yep.
October in Nome, warmest in over a century. Scientists predict late freeze-up, ice loss, and early spring breakup. Now, that was a presentation by a UAF professor here last week.
Yeah.
But, no, my point is there's a lag in the climate over what the sun has been doing. And it doesn't happen overnight.
No, of course not. But we have been seeing these increasingly harsh winters for almost 10 years now.
But on the other hand, a different global circulation, for instance, during the last ice age, supposedly left Alaska a lot warmer. And I've been a charter member of Alaskans for Global Warming for a long time. So I still got my fingers crossed to there. But, yeah, you heard about this report that came out of Scripps Institute last week, I think it was.
Which report was that one?
It was a mathematical error in their data.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me tell the listeners. Let me tell the listeners what that was about. We did cover this when it happened. There was this report that came on out which claimed that the world's oceans were holding 60% more heat than previously thought, and of course it was seized on by the global warming people to say, see, the world is warming. The reason you're not feeling it is because the heat is trapped in the ocean. And then another expert took a look at the work and said, you guys made a really huge math error, and now they've had to back off that claim. This is why the peer review process is so important, because you can have a lot of scientists who are working on things, and the people who are working to support the theory of human-caused global warming, they're very well funded. So when they're doing their work, they're going through what's called confirmation bias. They're not looking objectively at the data. They're trying to cherry pick the data that gets the result that they want. Anyway, Joe, thanks an awful lot, and we're going to let you go here. We're going to close the phone lines for a little bit because I got a bunch of news to get on out before the Lady Claire gets here. And we're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates rejoining our network. And as long as Joe brought up the subject, I do want to go through what is clearly a start to a very heavy winter. And over in New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio is getting a lot of heat from all corners because New York was unprepared for this storm. And right now, the city is virtually crippled. And people are saying, why were you telling us the world is getting warmer? Why didn't you say there is this really huge storm coming on in? And apparently over in West Orange, New Jersey, students were forced to sleep in their schools because the buses couldn't take them home. And in the midst of all this, where we have, Houston, Texas getting the earliest snow ever in its history, South Park has been forced to apologize to Al Gore for the Man, Bear, Pig episodes. And according to some sanctimonious commentary in The Guardian, it's a sign that South Park has finally seen the error of its ways. And it's part of a growing recognition by TV that politically correct snark has no place in this more enlightened, caring, woke, modern world of ours. Again, as we head into yet another hard winter. Here's what's going on. The whole idea of human-caused global warming was that back in the 1990s, the Earth was warming. And somebody said, hey, we can declare this a crisis. We can get everybody all scared up and use it to push our agenda, not to mention make a lot of money. We're all going to be rich. We're going to be famous. And that's exactly what they did. And if you read my article on ClimateGate, down at the very bottom, there is a long list of quotes from the so-called luminaries of the global warming movement, where they're actually out there admitting, saying, we're not looking at the raw data. We've got our computer models, and even if we're wrong, we can still do good with this. We can scare people into socialism. We can scare people into reducing their lifestyles. We can scare people into giving us their money. That's what this is really all about. So that's why over the last several years, even as all of the doomsday predictions of a broiling world that were put out have failed miserably, they're still trying to push that. They're hoping that you are so glued into your television sets or the newspapers that you're not actually going to do this little trick of turning your head around and looking out the window and seeing what's actually going on out there. Or that if you do, they're going to say, well, it may be cold where you are, but trust us, it is broiling everywhere else. We're scientists. We wouldn't lie to you. Yeah, scientists lie all the time. Scientists can also just be flat out wrong. Remember epicycles? Good example there. All right, getting on back to the conflict zones, Moscow is saying that the living conditions or the situation in the Syrian Rukban camp, it's a refugee camp in Syria, is hovering at the edge of the World War II concentration camps. And they're saying the whole responsibility for the outrageous humanitarian situation at Rukban rests with the United States, as it occupies the territory illegally and it uses the humanitarian problems of the refugee camp to legitimize its military presence in the south of Syria. We believe that the elimination of a 34-mile zone around Al-Tanf, where the U.S. military is located, will result in the closure of the Rukban camp. So, bad things happen in war. Our government is doing nasty, nasty things. Now, normally in a war, of course, the media, the movies, will tell you only good things about your side and how evil and rotten the other side is. Well, we live in a different world right now where there's peer-to-peer communication. And even if the independent media is shut down, they're not going to be able to stop people from sending emails around or text messages around. People will start to learn how to communicate without using the buzzwords that the scanners are looking for. Remember the code talkers? Those were the Navajo that were used for communications teams in the Pacific during World War II. And more than the fact that the Japanese didn't know the Navajo language, the Navajo used metaphor. They never said, for example, the word tank. It was always turtle. There are 12 turtles coming in. And the Navajo code talker code was never broken. Anyway. Over at the United Nations, Nikki Haley is saying that the U.S. will reject on the UN resolution calling on Israel to return the Golan Heights to Syria. Now, this is an annual non-binding resolution that gets voted on every year in the General Assembly, in the third committee. And now they're going to hold a vote in the entire assembly. And the U.S. is going to vote no, which doesn't mean they have a veto, and it's non-binding anyway. But Israel's attitude is, hey, we stole it fair and square, we're going to keep it. And if you don't like it, then you're a dirty, filthy, anti-Semitic, Jew-hating bastard who wants Hitler to come back and gas Jewish babies in the ovens. Meanwhile, Senator Rand Paul has secured a vote to proceed to SJ Resolution 65, his resolution of disapproval to block the sale of offensive weapons and support to Bahrain, a member of the Saudi-led coalition waging this devastating war in Yemen that has killed thousands of innocent civilians and left millions of Yemenis on the edge of famine. So good for Rand Paul on that one here. Now, as you know, about a week ago, there was a major conflict going on between Gaza and Israel. It was still pretty one-sided in Israel's favor. Then Israel declared a ceasefire, which supposedly is the reason that Avigdor Lieberman quit, being the defense minister, and one other key minister has also quit now. And Lieberman took his political party out of Netanyahu's coalition. So the coalition may be falling apart. But literally the day after the ceasefire was declared, Israel forces over by the coastline shot and killed an Israeli fisherman for daring to be out there in the ocean. And apparently overnight, Israel has killed another 14 Palestinians. So, and all of this started with an Israeli incursion into Gaza. And then Gaza fought back. So, let's see, PCHR Weekly Report on Israeli Human Rights Violations in the Occupied Palestinian Territories. Looks very dry here. Okay. Apparently, the new Israeli military escalation in the Gaza Strip. Warplanes carried out dozens of airstrikes. This is outdated. Sorry about that. All right, so how is this being covered by the American media? Well, we always know the American media is pro Israel, and NBC was out there talking about the recent conflict and about how those Palestinians, and of course, NBC doesn't mention Israeli snipers' killing of 220 unarmed Gazan protesters, and they don't mention the fact that Israel provoked this with an incursion into the Gaza territory. No, we're NBC, the National Broadcasting Castration, and we're here to tell you that you will love Israel and you will hate the Palestinians. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And right now the phone lines are closed because I'm trying to get through a lot of news before the Lady Claire comes on here. A little while ago, I was mentioning this story where down in Georgia, Stacey Abrams is refusing to concede, and all of a sudden had gotten something like dozens and dozens of lawyers. And everybody's saying, what's going on here? Well, it's just come on out. Apparently, she wants to go to court to order a complete new election for Georgia's governorship. And I'm sure she's going to be out there saying, we're going to do this election over and over and over again until I win. So it's now, I don't know what her justification is going to be for asking for a do-over. The fact that she didn't win, the fact that there was obviously fraud involved, mostly on the part of the Democrats. It doesn't matter. The election is unreliable. I want a new, equally unreliable election in my favor here. What a circus it's been. Okay, getting on back to the conflict zones here. Now, former National Intelligence Director James Clapper was a key player in the formulation of the justification for the war on Iraq, meaning he is one of the people who helped dream up this idea of weapons of mass destruction. Saddam's nukes. Saddam has nuclear weapons. He could destroy us all in 45 minutes. Why would he have wanted to do that? Knowing there would have been a retaliation. But anyway, so Clapper admits, yeah, I was part of that. Boy, we fooled you good, didn't we? There, got you over there, got all your kids over there in Iraq and made a mess of the place and lynched Saddam and took control of the oil revenues, and that made it all worthwhile here. And the guy is, still out there. Nothing's happened to him. I think, in my view, probably a lot of other people's views, he's a war criminal. But he's also admitted he lied under oath to the Senate about the extent of eavesdropping on Americans by the NSA. Now, we knew he'd done that at the time, but now he's admitting it. Yeah, I lied. Those dumb senators, they're so easy to fool here. And we're the NSA. We're allowed to lie to everybody. So Clapper is now a security analyst for CNN. Good place for him, I think. Over in Ukraine, things are starting to accelerate, as I mentioned over the last couple of days. Ukraine has a serious natural gas shortage because Ukraine has not been paying Russia for natural gas. The winter is starting to settle in hard there as well as here, and people's homes are not being heated. This has led to mass protest and, in some cases, rioting by people who are literally looking at freezing to death over the next 3 months here. So Ukraine is coming up on their elections early next year. The polls are showing Poroshenko is way behind, and that most likely Yulia Tymoshenko will be elected the next president. So now we're looking at this report that's coming out of Fort Rus saying that Poroshenko is already making preparations to flee Ukraine. He's liquidating his assets and getting ready to just basically get on out of Dodge. So there we are. Okay. Mike Pence is out there once again fanning the flames with China, saying the contested South China Sea isn't the domain of any country, challenging Beijing's claims to the resource-rich area, and that's really what it's all about. And so Pence said the South China Sea doesn't belong to any one nation, and you can be sure the United States will continue to sail and fly wherever international law allows and our national interests demand. That's what they're talking about. Now, those islands definitely represent Chinese sovereign territory. The space in between them, that is, correctly, international waters. Underneath all of it, though, is more oil and gas. And I guess it's just cheaper and easier to have a potentially nuclear world war than perhaps start seriously looking for alternatives to oil and gas as a primary energy source. That seems to be the thinking here. But that's what it's really all about, our national interests. And from now on, I want all of you Riveros Rangers, when you're in an argument and somebody says, well, they're a threat to our national interests, okay, list the national interest. What exactly are we talking about here? Well, it's our national interest. Oh, can you be a little clearer? Be more specific. What are we talking about? You know, a new library, oil, control of the currency. What are the national interests that justify going into all these conflicts all over the world? Okay, we're coming up here on another commercial break, and I'm going to go ahead and open the phone lines as we head on up to the top of the hour and the lovely Lady Claire. So we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting worse.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we have a caller on the line, Don in Iowa. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. You're talking about the weather.
I've lived most of my life right around here, or a lot of my life, half of my life, in Kansas, Iowa, and Missouri, right around here. We had snow this year in October in Missouri. I couldn't believe it. I was driving down the highway there, and I looked over and said, "What is that? That must be because it's October. We don't get snow in October. This must be some kind of ash or some kind of paper or something." No, it was snow. That was a freakish event, a snowstorm in October, because you don't get them down here in this part of the country. It's different. Like in Colorado, it might snow a little bit in any month, even in July when you're way up in the mountains or something.
Well,
yeah, this was weird.
We're seeing reports from basically all over the country that snow has arrived much earlier than usual. Like I said, Houston got their first snow the earliest in the year ever since records were being kept. Like I said, I've got family back in the Midwest area, and they're saying exactly the same thing. They're starting to get snow, and it's never been this early. They're not used to the idea of having to go to Thanksgiving dinner in the snow.
We even got snow also last April. It was snowing here because I go to the Philippines in the winter and come back. Usually by April 1st, it's going to be pretty nice weather around here. It snowed in April and it was real cold too. So
yeah,
I don't know exactly. I can't figure it out, but it's definitely we're having a cold year, and it's not just 1 year. It's been a few years.
Well, it's a repeat. It's a repeat of the Maunder minimum. And what it is the sun is not constant in its energy output. And there are multiple overlapping solar cycles which affect its energy output. And when they all line up at the bottom, they call it the grand solar minimum. And they've gone back and realized that these always coincide with very extremely cold periods of Earth's climate, like the Little Ice Age during the medieval period. And we're going into another one. And everybody who invested their reputation or their money in human-caused global warming, they're still out there trying to figure some way that can keep people from looking out their windows and realizing what an absolute scam global warming was.
I'd like to, I have to look that up, but I wanted to tell another story of this guy, Larry Nichols, on the subject of elections. Larry Nichols, I think the guy's name is, he used to work for the Clintons.
Yes.
And he's done, he worked for the Clintons, and he admitted he's done a lot of nefarious activity for them, probably up to and including probably murder. But anyway, back there in the days in Arkansas, he was telling a story. This guy, he'll tell tall tales. You don't know whether he's telling the truth or he's just making something up or something. They're talking about the Florida elections. He said when he was in Arkansas, his whole attic had boxes and boxes of, the whole attic was filled with ballots, paper ballots.
Mm-hmm.
And they came and inspected him, and he said, well, he bought the paper ballots just for insulation for his attic. So anyway, that's just a joke that I'd pass on. Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. Yeah, we've had Larry on our show before, and I don't think paper ballots have a high R factor. All righty, getting on back to the conflict zones here. The United States State Department is now out there saying that Hezbollah is flooding Peru and Bolivia with terrorist assets. Ooh, gosh darn that Hezbollah. We're going to have to turn our attention to South America now. So now we're going to be invading countries in South America as part of the war on terror. They're already talking about going into Venezuela, for humanitarian reasons. Those poor Venezuelans, they're suffering so much under that economy. Forgetting, of course, that Venezuela has been a target of U.S. economic warfare for decades. But that's how they sell you a war. They go into a country, they mess things up, they force the government to take draconian actions to stay in control. Then the corporate media says, oh, look, this country is doing draconian things. And we, the moral leaders of the world, we have to go on in and set things to right. Yeah. Now, there was a very interesting article, and this came out of the American Conservative. And it was talking about how Eisenhower, of course, introduced us to the concept of the military-industrial complex and how it's been evolving over the decades and grabbing more power and influence to itself. And so this article is saying it's time to change its name from the military-industrial complex to the permanent war complex, because that seems to be where we are. We're constantly at war, multiple wars, all over the world, which is great for the arms manufacturers and their salesmen, and they're probably having a really good time just traveling all over the world and demonstrating weapons and selling all that stuff. And of course, it's not very good for the American people, and it's not very good for the people in these countries who are either dealing with these wars or having to do without in order to pay for the weapons. It really is a cancer on the whole planet, this war profiteering. And it is incredibly corrupt. And of course, this new permanent war complex is justifying its enhanced power and control over the country's resources because of threats like Islamic terrorists. And again, we now know the U.S. created this. They fanned up ISIS. They supported ISIS so they could wag ISIS at us and say, ooh, ISIS, big, ugly terrorists. I'm sorry, we're going to have to take more of your money to fight off the ugly terrorists here. All right, let's take another phone call from Stephen in North Carolina. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael.
Hello.
What's on my mind is, hello. I want to know how you know all this information. You got an opinion about everything. I want to be on the same book you are.
Well, you first of all need to understand I'm an old guy. I've been around this planet for a very long time. And I was born with an insatiable curiosity about everything. So when I also had, when I was very young, the great fortune. Our little house was literally across the highway from the town library. And so if there was nothing on TV, which back then the only station we could get was Channel 9 from Manchester, I just walk across and read. And then, of course, I went from there to, the family moved to California, and I was heavily into the sciences, and I got to work for NASA, and I just, I think you should be learning something new every single day of your life, because the day you stop learning is the day you start getting old.
Yes, sir. I believe that. I was the one how you come about it, because you got an opinion about everything. I mean, anybody calls in, you got an opinion about it. I was just wondering how you come about that. Me myself, I'll be dumbfounded.
Well, yeah, like I said, self-education has been a big part of my life, and not to belabor the point too much, when I was younger, I was a member of Mensa, which is a polite way of saying I've got a few more marbles up in the skull than your average human being.
Yeah, a lot more than me.
Well, I don't have as many as I used to have. I can feel the effects of age, and especially all of that alcohol over the years and everything. Should have seen me when I was younger.
How old are you?
I'm 66.
66. You're my father's age. He's about 68. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Have a good day, sir.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. Earlier, I was saying that Israel must be under a great deal of pressure to not risk having an F-35 shot down, because if an F-35 were to get shot down, that would be the end of the deal. Nobody would want to buy it, because if it is not stealthy, if it can be tracked and shot down, then as a combat aircraft, it's junk. It can be out dogfought by 70s vintage aircraft, and it's underpowered. Most of the systems still don't work, but apparently somebody is still twisting arms somewhere, because apparently Great Britain has signed a multi-billion-pound contract that will double the size of its F-35 fleet. And this deal will see Britain owning 35 of the F-35 stealth jets by the end of 2022. And I'll bet right now Putin is just laughing his head off. So, anyway. Somebody finally audited the Pentagon. Ooh, wow. And to nobody's surprise, the Pentagon failed, including the Pentagon itself. The Pentagon admits it never expected to pass this audit. We know money's just gone flying out the doors. We have no idea where it went. But apparently the U.S. Department of Defense spent over $360 million to confirm there are problems in this $2.7 trillion organization. But the Pentagon leadership considers the mere fact that the first ever audit happened, well, hey, that's a great success. At least we got one. We never expected to pass it, but at least we can now say we have had an audit. So all of you cowards and you peaceniks, sit down and shut up. One of our callers talked about this earlier on the air, and there is a new report that's come on out by the National Defense Strategy Commission. This is an independent agency whose board is appointed by the House and Senate Armed Services Committee. And the report concludes that the Defense Department isn't financially or strategically set up to wage two wars at once, and could even lose a war against China or Russia individually. Now, obviously, one part of that report is going to be seized on to say, oh, we got to spend more money on that Pentagon here, And the fact that the audit just shows they can't keep track of it, that's no big deal. In wartime, we have to make sacrifices. Do you remember all the way back on September 10th? Donald Rumsfeld got up there at the Pentagon and announced that the Pentagon had mislaid something like $3 trillion. Should have been the military economic scandal of the year, but the next day was 9/11, and lucky Donald Trump, the media had something else to talk about. Okay, we're going to take a phone call from Glenn in Philadelphia. Aloha, Glenn. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Do you remember the first Star Wars movie? We see Luke Skywalker blow up the Death Star.
Yeah.
With his. Okay. Then in the second movie, I think it was The Return of the Jedi. You see them building a new Death Star. And
actually, that's Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, Empire Strikes Back. Thank you. I don't know the series, but thanks for the correction. So in that one we see this new Death Star under construction. You can see framework. It's clearly not a full sphere. It's not completed. And then we see the scene where the Emperor says to Luke, "And now you will see the power of my fully functional Death Star."
Yep.
Oh, yes, I'm afraid. Yeah. Okay, so in other words, it didn't look like much. It didn't seem like much. It probably wasn't supposed to be functional. And then lo and behold, ta-da, it works. Now, here's the question. Is the Pentagon smart enough to do that with the F-35? Put out a bunch of dysfunction, misinformation about it. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. They need cannon pods. The heads-up display doesn't work. All this, and then all of a sudden, ta-da! Lo and behold, fooled you. It works.
Well, let me simply point out that in all of these military procurement programs, none of the weapons that were finally produced lived up to the original expectations, and huge amounts of money were dumped on them to try and get them up to spec. And again, we're not just going on what the Pentagon says the F-35 is doing because the Pentagon thinks the F-35 is just swell. We're going on statements made by outside evaluators, by the countries who have already bought these things. Again, its entire claim to fame is the VTOL capacity on the naval version and the fact that it's supposed to be stealthy. But if one of those were to get shot down, we're not talking about whether it's going to win a war or not. The big payoff for this $1 trillion investment in this aircraft is to sell them all over the world. And if one of these F-35 gets shot down over Syria, it's gone. That deal is gone. People are going to start canceling orders, and they would, start going to Russia.
Yeah, the VTOL, we haven't seen that proven much. I mean, God knows how many Harriers nosed into aircraft carrier decks over the years.
Yeah.
But who knows how that's going to function. But
well, that is functioning. That has been tested. Now, whether it's got long-term fatigue problems or anything, we don't know. But I've seen videos of the F-35 doing a vertical landing onto an aircraft carrier.
Now, bear in mind that was originally built as a fighter bomber, an FB-35, and the fighter bombers aren't expected to have the same nimbleness in combat as actual air superiority fighters. That's why they're always showed in conjunction, with F-22s, the Raptors. And one time I saw a propaganda piece, like an amazing CGI little movie about, the FB-35 and the F-22 working together to take on this enemy. And it made it look like, oh my gosh, together, these guys, these are like ham and cheese. They go together and they work great, and it's all super. But obviously that's not quite the way it works. My favorite military equipment faux pas of all time was the Abrams tank when it was the XM-1, and they brought it out for a press conference, a press release, to show it off to the press,
Glenn,
and the thing would only go backwards.
Yeah, Glenn, need to let you go here. And again, you got to catch that movie, The Pentagon Wars. So we're going to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And I'm going to go ahead and close the phone lines again because I got a lot to get through. Lady Claire's coming on up here. So the phone lines are closed. Getting on back to the conflict zones here. Apparently, over in Mali, 2 Navy SEALs and 2 Marine Raiders are facing murder charges in the 2017 death of U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Logan Melgar. And the SEALs and Marines are all charged with murder and obstructing justice in this death that took place June 4th, 2017. Apparently, they broke into this guy's room. They tied him up with duct tape. He died in the process. Then they lied to investigators. Kind of a little bit out there here. Meanwhile, apparently, there was another incident near Mosul where a Navy SEAL allegedly stabbed a wounded ISIS fighter to death and is also accused of shooting 2 non-combatants, one of them a woman, posing for photos with and holding re-enlistment ceremony next to a human corpse and using and possessing controlled substances. Well, I mean, that would certainly explain the behavior. But I remember there was a big issue in the post-Vietnam years where a lot of the veterans had come back from Vietnam and were engaging in acts of senseless violence. And this was all before the age of prescription antidepressants. And the finger was being pointed just at the way they were being trained, because you need to understand the difficulty that is involved in creating an army. You're taking a bunch of kids who have grown up for 18 years being taught right from wrong and not to kill, not to steal, be respectful of other people. And then in a matter of mere months, you have to somehow change their brains where, yeah, it's okay to walk into this other village and shoot people and kick down the door and take stuff. And when they come back from the war zone, they bring that attitude back with them. There's no reverse boot camp when these soldiers come on back from the war zone to sort of undo the damage and say, you can go back to that mindset of thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not BS. And, you know, it's an issue. What the whole process of putting these kids through training in a war is doing to them. Now, some people make it through just fine. I know a lot of veterans who are leading really good lives right now. Successful, happy families. But there certainly are a lot of veterans who aren't able to make it back here in the real world. That's where we get these homeless and hungry veterans. So before we get all ready to wave our flags and say, yes, let's go off into Iran, you might want to think about what this stuff is doing to the people who have to fight the wars. And by the way, the Trump administration is getting ready to declare Iran in breach of the chemical weapons ban. Get ready for a chemical weapon false flag to be blamed on Tehran. We got to take a break for station identification. When we come on back, the lovely Lady Claire will be with us.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here, hour number 3. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this gorgeous creature sitting next to me is the lovely Lady Claire, who likes to join us on hour number 3 every Friday with her unique perspective of the world. And I would appreciate it if wet things were not put near the computers. Thank you. All righty. Unless I get one of those spill-proof cups for you, which that is not it. Okay. Anyway, so what do you want to talk about first?
I'd like to talk first about why the U.S. and UK are suddenly concerned.
Oh, wait a minute. I haven't got your volume up. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Let's start over from the beginning.
Okay.
All right.
The first thing I'd like to address is why the U.S. and the UK are suddenly concerned for civilians in Yemen. Now, Mike, as you and I and our audience know, this has been an unrelenting war on the poorest of the poor countries in the Middle East and has led to one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, like in decades.
Yes.
And over half of the population, some 14 million people, are at risk of starvation, at least so says the UN. And now all of a sudden you're getting a little bit of chat and chatter, and now this is not merely a ceasefire or talks. It is for the Western-backed Saudi Emirati coalition to immediately halt its criminal aggression against Yemen, stop the foreign interference. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Jim Mattis and Britain's Foreign Minister Jeremy Hunt seem to be impelled by humanitarian concerns. But, Mike, there's a deeper reason going on here.
Yes.
And a more nuanced reading of what they're talking about suggests that the real objective is to burnish the blood-soaked image of the Saudi coalition that their government support, and secondly, to inveigle the Houthis into a negotiations framework that will result in more undue foreign influence over Yemeni politics.
Well, that's already happened.
Oh.
And I think that's what the trigger of this is, where they've stopped the fighting around Hodeidah.
Yes.
Where the Houthis and the installed puppet government basically came to some kind of an agreement, the details of which are not known. But I think it basically amounted to the Houthis recognizing that they're going to have to accept the presence of that puppet government.
Yeah.
And so now the Saudi Arabia, they want to get on out.
Yeah.
This has been a very bad war in terms of public relations and public image.
Oh, yeah.
They want to get on out. Oh, we got to take care of all these poor people who've been harmed by this horrible fighting, which was started at the behest of the United States. And again, I think the idea is that they don't want to say that the Houthis found a solution to this.
Of course not.
So it's going to be, we've decided we're just going to pull on out.
Yeah. And the pain has been very terrible. There have been assassinations of infants, children, women, the medically fragile elderly.
Yep.
The blockade of the ports, so food cannot get in. So you've got children dying of malnutrition in the 21st century.
Plus that possibly weaponized cholera.
Yeah, we don't know, but we do know that the coalition has been destroying all of the water infrastructure that ever listed there. And I have something to say about this. The current crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, may have many honorifics, Mike, but I think the one that is going to stick to him long after he has passed is that of the Butcher of Yemen. And I've got a feeling history will not be too kind to either him or President Trump for aiding and abetting this genocide in Yemen.
Well, you know what they say. It's the winners of the wars who get to write the history books.
Yeah.
And, of course, that's one of the reasons WhatReallyHappened.com came into existence.
Right.
Was to basically say, hey, what you were told happened by the schools and TV and movies didn't happen that way at all.
And we have some people in the Senate, one of whom I particularly like, who are saying that it's not enough, and the Senate proposes a new bill to ban arms sales to Saudi Arabia. Now, last Thursday, the Senate killed a proposal by Rand Paul to block $300 million in U.S. arms sales to Bahrain. Yes, wonderful Bahrain, where the people want a representative or constitutional monarchy. It's a monarchy. And those people who have protested quietly, not riled anything up, what happens to them? They get thrown in jail. The first responders who are trying to help them get thrown in jail, and they're coerced into signing confessions for stuff they didn't do. And apparently, senators on the Foreign Relations Committee, led by Bob Menendez, yes, and Lindsey Graham, introduced the Saudi Arabia Accountability and Yemen Act of 2018, also with 3 Democrats to hold the Saudis accountable for the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network.
Bless you. Okay.
Normally I'll pull down the master gain, but that would
snuck
kill
up
your...
on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like they're trying to do the right thing, but what we've got here is a situation where President Trump believes war is good for business, and Trump had previously approved the selling of $110 billion with a B in arms to Saudi Arabia. And he is well on his way of earning his title, the American Merchant of Death in Chief.
I would like a thought here.
Okay.
Okay. I'm looking at all the stuff that's happening, the sudden saying we're going to get out of Yemen, this Accountability Act. And even though the Saudi royal family is basically surrounding and protecting Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, I'm getting a feeling that there is still a lot of desire to get him out of
the
power.
Top, the top slot.
If for no other reason than he tends to be rather fiercely independent.
Yes.
And that's not something the U.S. would like there.
Oh, no.
So I think Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman may get a pink slip very soon.
I would kind of like to hope so. You know, every piece I have read says that ultimately the only thing that can actually resolve this would be negotiations between the rebels and, the cutout government so that they could come to some kind of, agreement.
Again, that agreement appears to have happened.
Okay.
And that's why the battle for Hodeidah has pretty much died down
It
now.
fizzled, yeah.
Well, it didn't fizzle. It's just everybody said, okay, we're going to stop shooting each other for a while.
Yeah. Okay, and as most of you know, we've been covering these horrific California wildfires. And now it seems to get worse, because now there are fears that radioactive waste could be caught in destructive blaze. And an organization of physicians are very concerned that radioactive waste could become a major issue after Southern California's huge wildfires burned near a former nuclear test site. Now, this is an organization for which I have a lot of respect, Mike. It's called the Physicians for Social Responsibility, was founded a number of years ago by a wonderful lady, Dr. Helen Caldecott. And I find that these people walk their talk in terms of care and concern for everyone on this planet. And they have been suggesting that the smoke and ash from the fire sprayed radiological and chemical contamination that was in the soil and vegetation near the Santa Susana Field Laboratory. And they've been quoted as saying, Dr. Dodge, we know what the substances are on the site and how hazardous they are. We're talking about incredibly dangerous radionuclides and toxic chemicals such as trichoethylene, perchlorate, dioxins, and perchlorate, dioxins, and heavy metals. And I have to ask a question, Mike. When there were failures before, why didn't the government of California, working in concert with the federal government, not dealt intelligently with the storage of this stuff in the first place?
Well, you need to understand the history of the Santa Susana Laboratory. When it was first being built, and we're talking height of the Cold War, so everything is justified, including open-air nuclear tests out in Nevada. And that part of the Santa Susana Mountains was pretty remote. And a lot of stuff was built up there, including rocket testing stands.
Well, Rocketdyne was up there.
Yeah,
weren't they?
Rocketdyne was up there, and a lot of the rocket engines for Apollo were tested up there. But of course, as the population of Los Angeles grew, especially the population of the San Fernando Valley, it spread upward into the Simi Valley, right up to the edge of the Santa Susana Field Laboratory. And the issue there was that there had been a lot of accidents at the laboratory, and as we have seen in so many other cases involving war material development, there's not a lot of care about it. There's not a lot of cleanup. In fact, the reason that the American people know about the existence of Area 51 or the Groom Lake facility, rather, out in Nevada, was because of a lawsuit brought by the family of one of the people working there who'd been exposed to something really toxic.
Ouch.
And the government, because whatever it was secret, the government refused to let him seek medical care, and he died. And the story actually got picked up when it went to court. And that was when America began to realize there was something over there northwest of Las Vegas. And so that sort of happens. And there were a lot of chemical tests being done up at Santa Susana. There were several experimental reactor designs, and because they were experimental, they didn't have containment vessels. One of them was a sodium-cooled reactor, which the Russians had terrible luck with. But that didn't stop the U.S. from going on in and trying to set one up, which promptly melted down and is still in the process of melting down deep in the earth, which is one of the reasons why, even had somebody wanted to pick up the cost of trying to clean up that site, there was only so far that they could do. But any radioactive or chemical debris that left the Santa Susana laboratory was contaminating the ground, contaminating the plants, and of course when you have a fire burn across it, it's freeing all of that material, and the heat drags it up into the air. The wind takes it whichever way the smoke is going. That's where the stuff is going. And a lot of the people who live around that area, I mean, they were already got elevated levels of cancers and leukemias, but very low home prices, I might add.
Oh, yeah, because it's been pre-disaster.
Yes, it's been pre-disaster. But yeah, it's another classic case of the U.S. government putting together a military laboratory and refusing to clean up the mess after it's all over. And then later on, there's a disaster.
Yeah, that's been kind of the pathological approach of the U.S. government and military, I would say.
Well, it's not pathological. It's cost effective. After all, we're on a budget.
Yeah, right.
We had the money, but we don't know where it went.
Right. Going over to the UK, I think this is a very interesting moment, not only for the UK citizens, but Americans as well. Now, what the police are doing, they are training some officers to use flying robots to track offenders back to their homes. And they've got a squad, And they're being trained to operate drones, which will enable them to take images of what they call antisocial offenders. Do you think we kind of factor into that? Are we antisocial?
No, I'm very friendly.
So am I.
Okay.
I'm a peace activist, but I'm friendly. And with the potential to follow them to their homes. And it's part of a trial of the use of remote controlled devices in policing. Now, Greater Manchester is establishing a drone unit with officers trained as pilots for the unmanned aerial vehicles. They aim to identify criminals by taking images of alleged offenders all the way to their homes if necessary.
Well,
in a bid to make communities, what could go possibly wrong
Well,
here?
you know, outside of these cops using these things to peek into, ladies' windows, which inevitably is going to happen. Remember Blue Thunder when they were talking about armed helicopters? They had that wonderful scene with the undressed woman. This is basically the same thinking as having helicopters in the sky, except it's certainly a lot less expensive. It's a lot less dangerous, and they can certainly fly a lot lower down. So with the appropriate controls, I mean, if they're talking about having witnessed a crime and just flinging a drone after this person, it sounds really good. But the reason I think it's a waste of money is simply because the police are never there when a crime takes place.
Oh, we noticed that the other day, did we not?
Yeah,
when we were driving.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And so the equipment's going to be in the car, and they're going to be playing with it and training with it. But they're not going to be there to catch the offenders, because offenders, first of all, don't offend when the police are around.
No.
So I think somebody just wasted a lot of money.
Yeah. But what this looks like to me, Mike, in both the United States and the UK, is a move to connect every possible surveillance device by every device imaginable. You know, from Siri, which is listening, and to the GPS on your phone, and now the new Roomba will have a functionality to film your house layout as you are working and store this information. Now, I've got to wonder for whom it would be storing this information, federal or state government?
What's film?
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. To video.
To video. The
Yeah,
house.
showing my age, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to agree with this one. I can understand the Roomba maybe making a sonar map of your house in order to optimize its path as it goes around. I don't see it really having a legitimate need to image the inside of your house.
Yeah.
And there are troubling Orwellian aspects to this.
Absolutely. It's almost
First
as though,
of all,
go ahead.
it's down there on the floor. It's
Yeah.
going to be looking up the skirts of your wife and daughter.
Ow.
Something
Okay.
to think about.
Yeah. But I am seeing this working to connect all of the surveillance on everyone in both countries. And A, I think it's kind of dumb. And B, you know, it's not morally right. Just not.
Well, it's not morally right. It's also technically not possible because, I mean, they're sucking so much data in. They can't evaluate it. They can't keep track of it. In fact, if anything, they're probably struggling just to keep it all stored.
Yeah.
And, I think somebody who started this whole agenda of total information awareness, they watched too many Jason Bourne movies.
Maybe,
where there's this control room and everybody's, oh, yes, we can follow this guy. He's turning here. He's going to go here.
Yeah.
And with a limited data set, like the population of your town, maybe. But when you're collecting all the data you can on everybody on planet Earth, or even let's just pull in the context, even here in the United States, we've got about 300 million people, who are making phone calls every day and they're driving hither and that huge amounts of data. I don't think they can effectively make use of it. And I think this is just another one of these complexes that have sprung up that are just out there saying, yes, we have to spy on everybody because we're making all kinds of money on it. But in the end, I haven't seen them actually come up and stop a terror attack. They certainly didn't catch the Parkland shooter.
No.
They certainly didn't catch this guy who did the synagogue.
Yes, yes.
So, as far as I'm concerned, they're worthless. And if you remember the story we had earlier in the show, Clapper admitted that he lied to the Senate under oath as to how extensive the NSA surveillance on us all really was.
And will he get any kind of rebuke or jail time or anything for lying under oath?
He's working for CNN now.
Oh, dear.
As their security expert.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that NSA can fine-tune into a single individual. But as far as being able to watch everybody, you know, I stopped being concerned about it a long time ago. You know, anything that the government wants to know about me is on the website and on this radio show.
Yeah, me too.
And, you know, I like my right to privacy, which is why I live my life the way that I do.
Yeah.
I don't use a lot of plastic. In fact, I don't use any plastic. Anyway, we got to take a break for commercials. We will be right back.
Many people write about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. My wife and I both use Extendivite and are very pleased with the results. It has helped to stabilize our blood pressure and to make both of us feel healthier. Good product and good buy. So far, so good. I've been taking Extendivite 3 times a day, only a short while now, but already I've noticed the circulation in my hands and feet improving. They tingle. I like the idea of taking something herbal rather than pills. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Attention RBN listeners. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, founder of Front Sight Firearms Training, and Fate have come together to allow RBN to run another fundraiser till the end of the year. We didn't really expect this opportunity, but thankfully it's here and running as you hear this. We've set a goal of 500 donations by the end of the year, which averages around 6 per day, 7 days a week. When you realize all the folks listening to RBN all hours of the day and night, we think our goal is realistic and extremely critical to keep RBN on the air. If everybody listening will seriously assess their ability with firearms and then take advantage of this opportunity, we feel our goal is very conservative. Please take the time to look over Front Sight's website to get an idea of an amazing facility and the world-class training that's going on there. If this interests you, you likely will have like-minded friends that would like to know. Tell them. If for some reason some listeners are not personally interested, consider sons and daughters, close friends, nieces or nephews, top valued employees, inform club members, share the opportunity with police and fire departments. It's not too early to plan Christmas presents for special people. This fundraiser has come at an extremely critical time for RBN because the dire need for equipment upgrades. We're running on the spare tire currently with no money to fix a flat, and the fuel gauge is bouncing on E. This is one of the most valuable ways you can help RBN financially because you get Commander lifetime membership value that is 50 times your donation and can be passed on forever. How many times during life do you get to leave a legacy? See more details and contact info on our webpage, republicbroadcasting.org, and thank you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to go ahead and reopen the phone lines, 800-313-9443. And what is your next story, Claire?
Well, it's about something that President Trump said a little bit earlier this week. Trump is apparently warning Antifa that they'd better hope that the other side doesn't mobilize. And he had some words of warning, and he said that they would be in big trouble if opposing groups mobilized to counter them. And these people, like the Antifa, they better hope that the opposition decides not to mobilize, because if they do, they will be much stronger and much tougher. Oh, Heavenly Ned.
Donald.
Mr. President,
Donald.
please. Mr. President, please. Okay, all of you who listen to this show understand I'm a Christian pacifist activist.
I'm a pagan
Yeah,
pacifist
okay.
activist.
I'm recovering from a broken back. I don't want to hit or hurt anyone, and I would like to say that people who care about the trajectory of domestic and foreign policy that's coming out of DC, we have to be above this. We have to combat it with logic, with what you tell people to do all the time. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, talk to your friends, and you will be very, very surprised at how much you may be on the same page with them on a lot of issues.
I would imagine so. Now, we know that Antifa is a put-up group, and they're funded and everything.
Yep.
But Trump is just pouring kerosene on a fire that we, the people, are hoping he's going to be able to put out.
Yeah.
So I think this was very ill-considered on his part.
I am not really happy about it. Occasionally he does, how can we say this gently, speak very spontaneously, like right from the hip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a bad quality in a president.
Yep. And we have some interesting financial numbers coming up next. Apparently, the United States has spent nearly $6 trillion with a T on war since 9/11. And this data comes to us as the U.S. on track to having spent nearly $6 trillion on war since the September 11th, 2001 attacks in New York. Now, this
Okay.
comes to us.
And by the way,
yes.
that's your money.
Yeah,
Not
it's
the
not
government's
theirs.
money.
Yeah.
That's your money.
And the annual analysis from the Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs at Brown University far exceeds Pentagon estimates because it looks at all the war-related costs.
Well, at this point, we have
Yeah.
to come on back in and remind everybody
Yeah.
that the Pentagon just had their first ever audit
And failed.
failed
Miserably.
So
Yeah.
I would say that probably this report from this, could you scroll back?
Yes, I can.
From this Watson Institute,
Mhm.
I think I'm going to look at their numbers versus those of the Pentagon.
Yeah. And apparently, some were told to expect wars that would be quick, cheap, effective, and beneficial to the U.S. interest.
We're always told that.
yeah,
You know,
but-
remember Iraq? Oh, but we'll pay for the war
Yeah.
with the oil.
They'll throw roses at our feet. But because we finance these wars literally on credit, Mike,
Yeah.
the cost of the wars themselves pose a national security challenge. And folks, here it is, plain and simple. The reality here is this debt is, in and of itself, a weapon of mass destruction,
It absolutely
which is going to come back and
because-
bite us.
And
Mhm.
it's directed at you.
Yeah.
And because
It's my phone. I'll
yeah,
get it
okay.
later. Yeah. Mhm.
Nobody knows how long the wars are going to go, or how long the loans are going to have to go, or what the interest rates are going to be.
Mhm, yeah.
The estimate of the interest on the war financing is never included in the original estimates. When they came on
Mhm.
out and said it's going to cost us $1 trillion to develop the F-35,
Uh-huh.
that did not include the interest payments on the $1 trillion borrowed from the Federal Reserve.
No.
Which is all just created out of thin air.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why military spending spins out of control.
Mhm.
It's a racket. Major General Smedley Butler said exactly the same thing. It's just a racket.
Mhm.
Everybody's in there making money like crazy. I got to see it up close and personal with a couple of military-related projects I worked on. And it was just like the huge amounts of money. And the attitude was, spend it quick. If we don't spend it all,
It's gone. Yeah.
They'll cut our budget
Yeah,
for next
yeah,
year.
Yeah. Can you ballpark roughly around how much you thought you saw in when you were around doing this project?
Oh, that was a long time ago, and
Okay.
it's more than one project. I like
Mhm.
to tell the story about what are called the gator sites out in the Mojave,
Mhm.
and how, for the sake of getting some little tiny fuses,
Mhm.
we literally got a truck of very expensive components delivered to us, which we couldn't give back.
Ah.
Which, for those of us who are electronic hobbyists,
Uh-huh.
was really kind of cool. Anyway, we are coming up on another commercial break here. The phone lines are open, and when we come on back, I guess we're going to be talking about Israel, right?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, all right. Well, so stay tuned. Don't touch that dial, and we'll be right back.
Yeah.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Extendivite, made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle, feeds our body with the nutrients we need to keep healthy. Just listen to what Arthur had to say.
I was just telling you, telling what a great product you have. I had used this about 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again, so I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product. Thank you very much.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And before we go back to Claire, it's worth noting that right now on Fox News, they're running a story on how the United Nations is discussing a strategy for ending the Yemen war. So great. However it comes about in
Mhm.
terms of the people on the ground,
Yeah.
where they can finally get food, water, get the
Mhm.
cholera dealt with,
Yeah.
and start trying to rebuild their lives.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
what is your next story?
Well, there are several developments with regard to Israel, and I'd like to take them as a segment, if I may, please.
Segment away.
Okay, apparently the IDF will no longer show any restraint in quote unquote cracking down on Palestinian protesters who stir trouble at the Gaza border.
Whenever did they show restraint?
Never, you know.
Okay.
And this is what this gentleman has said. Our patience has broken and we will respond harshly. We will show no restraint. Now, that quote came from Major General Kamil Abu Rokon, IDF coordinator of government activities in the territories, also known as Kogat. And he made this statement on his Facebook page. And he was saying that weekly border clashes are nothing short of terrorist acts, quote unquote, which are well planned and coordinated by Hamas or possibly the IDF. And
Yes.
he issued explicit orders to the Palestinians to stay at least 100 meters clear of the border fence. And anyone who approaches the fence and tries to destroy it will put themselves at risk, the general said. Leniency, Rokon said, will not be shown to anyone who hurls bombs, grenades, and Molotov cocktails, or those who attempt to detonate explosives.
Except that's not what's been happening.
No, yeah.
The 200 plus Palestinians who have
Mhm.
been shot
Yeah.
by the IDF were carrying banners.
Yeah.
They were protesting for their
Mhm.
right to return.
But peacefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
And there were, unfortunately, some incidents of people throwing
Mhm.
rocks and
Yeah.
burning tires and stuff. But a lot of the people who got shot weren't doing anything like that.
Yeah.
In fact, there was one person who got shot only because they missed the last stop on the bus that was bringing people to the.
And couldn't get home.
Yeah, well, she was.
Yeah.
She was going to get off the bus, get back on, and head back
Uh-huh.
on out.
Yeah.
And she got shot.
Ah.
Now, to me, showing restraint in a situation like that is that you're shooting the people who are actually trying to physically harm you.
Yeah.
By throwing a rock or whatever. But again, remembering that these IDF snipers were in fortified locations,
Mhm.
well away from the fence.
Yeah.
And certainly out of slingshot or rock range.
It's kind of like shooting ducks in a barrel kind of situation, depending on where their platforms are.
Yeah, basically that's
Mhm.
it. And Israel's always acted like that.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure why this guy is talking tough, but a lot of it may have to do with the strains that we're seeing
Mhm.
on Netanyahu's government.
Right, and I'd like to make a couple of observations on
all right.
that. Now, looking at all the bells and whistles the IDF has, all the toys, that means they've got a motive and current opportunity to create an even worse genocide in Gaza. And what they seem to be telegraphing in this language, and when you think that conditions couldn't get any more strange in Tel Aviv, Prime Minister Netanyahu has stated. Now, we all know about Lieberman leaving in a huff. So, what does Netanyahu do? He's also assuming the position of Minister of Defense after Lieberman resigned in a funk. And, it's very strange to me. But I think that he's doing everything in his ability to prevent that government from collapsing and them having to do a snap elections. Because
Yeah.
he's taken on several other of these roles himself. He's sort of a
Yeah,
one-man band.
Well, that's the issue that has led to a challenge from one of the other parties in his ruling coalition,
Mhm.
saying that the current Minister of Education
Mhm.
ought to be the defense minister. Because if Netanyahu is the prime minister and defense minister together,
Yep.
he can order the military into battle
Yeah.
just all on his own. He's got both
Mhm.
keys to the weapons locker.
Yeah, keys to the kingdom. And some Palestinian groups, including Hamas, are hailing Lieberman's departure as a political victory against Israel. Now,
Well,
Mike,
they're not
I
thinking
wouldn't
it
say
all
that.
the way through. I
No,
mean, it's a
yeah.
political victory, but
Yeah.
it hands Netanyahu the
Mhm.
ability to have a military victory. And Apparently, there was some issue over the fact that Netanyahu was unhappy with Lieberman over their inability to find a way to get back into pounding on the Syrians.
Yeah.
Netanyahu may just decide he's going to take out his rage and frustration on the people of Gaza.
Yeah.
Rather than look like they've actually been driven into
a defeatist posture.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, the other thing I want people to be very careful about, Major General Rocon's language, coupled with Netanyahu's having taken over from Lieberman as defense minister, possibly means worse, more deadly, and more horrific strikes against the Palestinians. And yes. And there's been a lot of back and forth between Naftali Bennett and Netanyahu. And apparently, Israel is moving toward an early election after Netanyahu's ultimate nationalist coalition partners accuse him of being soft on terrorism. And apparently, there have been calls today for a snap election. And Bennett has demanded the post of defense minister after Lieberman resigned earlier this week. And during a tour of southern Israel today, Lieberman accused Netanyahu of being soft on terror and said his Gaza policy was strengthening Hamas. That makes no sense to me, Mike.
Well, again, they're playing politics, and in Israel, demonizing and then killing Palestinians is good politics because the majority of the people of Israel will go along with that. Are we at the end of this segment?
Just a little bit more.
Okay.
We have a caller. Let's take the caller.
All right, we're going to take the caller now.
Right.
Mark in New York, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey there, you guys. Thanks for taking my call. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I wanted to call to get Claire's take on this Acosta deal. I know we're beating a dead horse, but I wanted to call last week, but I was just too tired, and she was cut off the week before, so I just thought I'd call in, give her the hour before I bother her with it. But for me, I see it as I wanted to give you the creepometer test.
Okay.
Where it's like, say you have Mother Teresa at 0 and say Pee Wee Herman on the other side.
Oh, dear.
Well, Hollywood knew that Pee Wee Herman was kind of a nutcase behind the scenes. But
Yeah.
still had this image was. So you get where I'm going with this. You know, I personally think he's kind of, this whole thing, the whole 2 minutes, 3 minutes was a little creepy. But nobody's really talking about that. I've never heard any kind. I don't know if you saw it or put you on the spot. What do you think?
Now, this person again is
Okay, yeah, I don't think Claire's up to speed on this. Jim Acosta is the CNN reporter
yes.
who had his press credentials yanked, and then a judge citing Fifth Amendment due process grounds ordered the White House to reinstate it. If I were Donald Trump, I would hand him back his press credentials and then stick him off in that far corner of the room over there and just
fully
never
appropriate.
let him have the microphone again.
Yeah. Because it
Fair enough.
shouldn't
Fair
be
enough.
about badgering.
Yeah.
It should be intelligent, informed, thoughtful questions. And that is the polar opposite of what Acosta gave the president.
And you need to understand that CNN itself set up this situation. If you go all the way back to 2016, CNN completely abandoned the pretext of being fair and balanced. They were pro-Hillary. They were anti-Trump. They pounded on him constantly. If CNN is feeling that the Trump White House does not like them, CNN has nobody but themselves to blame for it. And so I think Trump was being very understanding and mature to allow CNN to have 50 credentialed reporters for the White House press corps. And I think, and again, presidents have yanked press credentials before. Nobody made up a fuss. Nobody did it when Obama did it to Helen Thomas. I think CNN made a big fuss out of this so that they could make CNN the top story on CNN because their ratings are just terrible right now.
Right. Yeah.
And so,
Fair enough. What about the woman? What about the women? Maybe there's a guy in there passing the mic, but this thing, it seems today with this Me Too, you look at a woman the wrong way, she feels threatened. Now, this guy got in her personal space.
Mhm.
Nobody's talking about her conveniently, and I think that's an issue. If that
Uh-huh.
was my daughter, my niece,
Yeah.
my sister,
Mhm.
or something, I'd be a little bit annoyed and concerned about him like a bull, a bull in a china shop. 'Cause
Yeah.
his deal will be going forward, poking holes in this whole thing any way he can.
Yeah.
To me, that
Yeah.
will be his job for the next 6 years, testing the waters, because
Mm-hmm.
he's been angered by having his thing pulled, which it is. I understand it isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't done. But anyway, there it is.
Okay.
I don't think you'd be inviting him over for cocktails and coconuts on a Friday.
I
evening.
don't
No,
think that's going to
we're not
happen.
planning on doing that.
Yeah.
Certainly. All right. Well,
No,
Mark.
or you would not be inviting that kind of guy to introduce him to one of the ladies in the congregation either, right?
Yeah.
From what but you never saw. You never saw. I'm kind of being funny, but you never saw. If you didn't see the few minutes where he was throwing his idealism out, and it wasn't a question. We know the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then the woman being put in that position, and nobody's really talking about her, how she felt, who's going to have to deal with him in the room when he comes back. But like Mike said, put him in the back of the room.
Yeah,
But going
that'll
forward, I
work.
also want to mention something that nobody talked about.
Okay.
Vaccines. Mike was talking about it during the week. I tried to get it in. But I noticed that I learned about fermenting, and when I had the Lime and all that stuff, and
Okay, Mark.
the battle
Mark.
that helped
Mark.
ferment, and that's
Mark.
what,
I'm sorry, but we're really getting close to running out of time here, and
all right. Another
yeah,
time,
I'm going to
man.
have to let you
No
go
worries,
here.
okay.
We've got another caller waiting on
Sure.
the line, but I
Okay.
need to let Claire finish this thing about Israel before we take any more phone calls.
All right, I'll make it relatively quickly. And this comes to us from globalresearch.ca. Very logical, grounded blog. I encourage you to go and read some of their articles. And this is by Phil Giraldi, a gentleman for whom I have tremendous professional respect. And the title was, "No matter who wins the midterms, it's Israel that comes first." And yeah, with all of the money, with all of the aid coming from a government, ours, which is $22 trillion in debt.
Yes,
It's
that we know of.
insane.
Actually, with the
Yeah.
unfunded liabilities, it's
Yeah,
closer to
uh-huh.
$200 trillion in debt.
hmm And something that Netanyahu said at some sort of a meeting or gathering, and he made the statement in front of reporters. So I think this is sort of a precursor to something very nasty happening in Gaza, because he said in Paris on Sunday that no political solution exists for Gaza, just as there isn't one with ISIS. And please, he's saying they want to prevent a humanitarian collapse in Gaza when they're doing the polar opposite.
Yeah, I mean,
You know.
it's the world's largest open air
Prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was remembering when I hear rhetoric like this, I am reminded of the Catholic Army's assault against the Cathars at Montségur in France. When a papal legate was informed that there were women and children among the men who were being besieged, the papal legate gave the order, "Kill them all. God will find his own." And I find Prime Minister Netanyahu's attitude scarily close, Mike. And you were also, even though there has been another ceasefire, there is a military escalation in the Gaza, Israeli missile and bombings attacking on civilian buildings. Now, they carried out dozens of airstrikes, launched 197 missiles at civilian buildings and military sites belonging to Palestinian armed groups. A couple were killed, 20 others wounded, including 5 women and 4 children. And the civilian facilities destroyed completely. And I really wish that President Trump would use a little bit of his, how can I say this, negotiating skills that he thinks he has to put a better handle on this, and to also remember that for the Palestinians, this isn't about money. This is about birthright. This is about being thrown out of your home.
Well, unfortunately, Trump has kind of delegated the Israel-Palestine issue to Jared Kushner.
Right.
And what they're trying to do is starve the Palestinians, or in Israel's case, bomb the Palestinians into surrendering their right of return, even though both the United Nations and Israel itself pledged that they would have that right.
Yeah. And we come over to another story. Do we have another caller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, before we go to the caller, down in Georgia, Stacey Abrams has conceded the governor's race.
Okay.
Apparently, her lawyers said there was no way to force a runoff election, which is what she was trying to do. So that part of the circus is over. All right, let's go to Art off the grid. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, boy, I'm so glad the nightmare here in Georgia is over with. Anyway, I wanted to ask because I'm not quite sure, and I'm hoping somebody, possibly you, because I know you follow this stuff pretty closely, might have the answer with regards to Jim Acosta. Now, I'm totally in favor of yanking his press pass.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely on board with that, 100%. Couldn't happen to a better guy, in my opinion. But be that as it may, who is it? Is it the White House press secretary, or who is it who is in charge of issuing these press passes to the press corps? And what would be the procedure for removing someone's clearance? And when they get these press passes, are they permanent, or do they have to be renewed every once in a while? What is the policy here?
Well,
because I can't believe the court has jurisdiction in this matter.
Well, that part really bothered me, and I think the court was responding to CNN's lawsuit that they had to do something about it, and all they could find was the Fifth Amendment violation. Anyway, listen, Art, going to have to let you go. Have to take our final commercial break of the day. We'll be back with the last segment of our Pauhana Friday show after these few words.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our Pow Honda Friday program. And earlier in the program, I was saying, looking at all these little things about Khashoggi and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and saying, I got the feeling the Crown Prince may not have his job for all that long. Now, just now breaking, the CIA has come on out with their report saying that there is no question that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman gave the order for the execution of Khashoggi. And to me, this is waving a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want him out. He's too difficult to control. They want one of his more amenable brothers back in there as well. And apparently the White House has decided they are going to appeal the judge's decision on Acosta's press pass.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's the White House press office which issues the press credentials, and they can be withdrawn at request, but it's usually done in writing. That was the point.
Wouldn't Sarah Sanders' office have something to do with it?
That
spokesperson.
Sarah Sanders is in charge. Well, she's a spokesperson, but she works in the press office.
Right.
Apparently, the judge also felt that the swap with Jim Acosta's arm to the intern really didn't appear to be that big a deal.
It was accidental, maybe.
No, it wasn't accidental. He was definitely swatting her
Trying
away
to move,
because he didn't want to surrender the microphone.
Yeah.
But again, the last statement out of the White House is that they're going to defend the president's authority to basically keep the press room under his control.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, other presidents have yanked press credentials before. Nobody made a big deal about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So CNN tried to turn this into a cause célèbre.
Yeah.
And, well, they succeeded.
Yeah.
Right now, they're in the business of manufacturing news stories because they don't want to talk about what's going on in Yemen.
Nope.
They don't want to talk about what's going on in Syria. Well, they did talk about the fact we may be pulling out of Yemen. The American people are going to see that as good news.
Yes.
But, yeah, I don't think the Crown Prince is going to be around for much longer. And I remember when Khashoggi's death was first made public, and one of the first things I said was, why are they making a big deal about this? I mean, the murder was terrible, no question.
Yeah.
And it was working for the Washington Post. But there have been something like 60 journalists killed so far this year.
Yikes.
And they barely rate a mention on page 47.
Yeah.
You know,
I hear you.
underneath the personal ads.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Khashoggi was a big deal. Yeah, I think this is an operation to get rid of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. I don't think it's going to be around for much longer.
Mike, there's a factor on that I'd like to ask you about.
Okay.
Doesn't it depend also on how loyal the military is to either bin Salman or other people in the royal house of Saud?
Well, I don't think the Crown Prince has been in power long enough to build up a loyal force within the military.
Okay.
And I think the military tends to be loyal to the House of Saud as a whole. Okay, so, and we're coming here to the end of our program. We should hear the music at any time now. So have yourselves a really good, safe weekend here. Don't forget, of course, next week is going to be Thanksgiving. And so it's time to start thinking about getting those sweet potatoes and all the rest of that other stuff. All right, stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here from the show, share it with everybody that you know. Keep the public focus on the efforts to rig the elections. We've got one down with Stacey Abrams, but we still got all that nonsense. They're still doing the hand count in Florida.
Yep.
So have a good weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Aloha, America.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front